Hi, I'm Jayla'S, and this is my banging meatloaf. And what I'm going to do is a meatloaf with mashed potatoes and an arugula salad on the side. Okay, I'll first start off with putting my meatloaf mixture together. What I use is ground turkey, just because it's healthier than regular ground beef. And all I'm going to do is open the package and throw it right into my bowl where I'm going to add all my mixtures in. Then after I add in my ground turkey, I'm going to add in my onion mix, which is just dried onions and a few garlics and stuff like that. Then I add in 1 egg. It can be brown or white, doesn't matter. I'll add in my breadcrumbs. And then from there, I'm just going to start mixing that in first. Okay, now that I have my onions on powder, my breadcrumbs, and my 1 egg in, I'm going to start adding my extra seasoning. So I'm going to add in my herb seasoning salt, a little pinch of black pepper, my sea salt and seasoning salt herb, and my garlic salt. Once I have all those in, I'm going to mix them together as well. And you can add more breadcrumbs if you don't think that it's enough. So I'm going to just add a little bit more breadcrumbs in there. Okay, now when I'm close to this part, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put my oven on for 350. And now what I'm going to do is cut up my vegetable ingredient, which is a green bell pepper that I'm going to put into my meatloaf mix. Some people use the bell pepper seeds, but you don't have to use them if you don't want to, but I'm going to add just a few of them in. Okay, once I have my bell peppers cut in strips, I have to chop them down even more just to make them a little bit smaller to the mix so they don't overpower. You can add in half the bell pepper. You don't have to put in the whole bell pepper, but if you want to. Okay, so I'm adding a few more bell peppers in there just to give it a little bit more flavor. And I'm also adding a little bit more breadcrumbs just so everything can be binded together a little bit more easy. The egg is for the binding for the meatloaf, but the breadcrumbs, it helps it just a little bit more than the egg does. So that's why I'm going to add a lot more of that in there. So I'm going to mix, now that I have all my stuff in that I'm going to add for my meatloaf logs, I'm going to just mix it all together so I make sure that everything and all the flavors are connected together. And then once it comes in this big glob like this, that's the consistency you want it. So once it gets like this, you can stop stirring. And what you're going to do is simply just grab it with your hands and throw it on the chopping board. Sorry. Okay. So this is the way a regular meatloaf would look. But I'm going to do meatloaf vlogs because it's half the time that you're cooking it. And it's just simply easier than doing one big meatloaf. So what I'm doing right now is just cutting the shape of a spear type thing. I'm just cutting it into strips. And then what I'm going to do is kind of roll it like a meatball. And then roll it out to make it look kind of more like a sausage. Okay, so now that I have my meatloaf logs in the pan with butter just so they won't stick, I'm going to put them in the oven, and my oven is on 350. They should take about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to cook. So now while I'm waiting for those, I'm going to start working on my meatloaf sauce. And all it is for the meatloaf sauce is honey barbecue sauce and tomato ketchup. Now the trick is, all you have to do is put 1/3 ketchup mixed with barbecue sauce. Okay. It's at 1/3, and then what I'm going to do from here is just mix it together. Okay, so my recipe calls for 1/3. But if you think that it can use a little bit more ketchup with a little bit more barbecue sauce, you can add that in. So mine, it smells a lot like barbecue. So I'm going to add a little bit more ketchup just to give it a nice cool down flavor. And once I finish that, all I have to do is put that to the side. And all I have to do is coat it once my meatloaf logs are ready. So now that my meatloaf logs are in the oven, I'm going to start working on my mashed potatoes. But before I start peeling my mashed potatoes, I'm going to wash them off just before I start peeling them. Just to get all the germs and dirt off, I'm going to use hot water. Okay, so now I'm going to start peeling my mashed potatoes. So I've continued to peel my potatoes and I'm almost done. And once I finish peeling my potatoes, what I'm going to do is put a little bit of salt on them. And then I'm going to throw them right into the boiling water. Now with my recipe, I advise you to put the boiling water on before you start your meatloaf logs or regular meatloaf, because it's going to take the potatoes are going to take the longest to get softened. while my potatoes are cooking, I'll show you guys how to make my raspberry walnut vinaigrette sauce. That's gonna go on my arugula salad, which is my vegetable for my dish. I want to make sure all the skin is off. Takes a little bit less time that way. Okay, so now that all my potatoes are peeled, I'm going to sprinkle a tiny bit of salt on them. And I'm going to throw them into the water. Okay, so now that my potatoes are on the stove boiling and I'm about to start my arugula salad, first I want to check on my meatloaf logs. I put them in about 22 minutes ago, so let's see how they're doing. They're looking good. So as you can see, they're almost cooked. But I want them to cook all the way through, so I'm going to just make sure that they're cooked all the way through and leave them in for about 5 more minutes. Okay, so now what I have for you is I'm going to make an arugula salad with baby arugula, olive oil, a walnut raspberry vinaigrette, and avocado. So I'm going to start off with putting my baby arugula in a bowl. And I'm going to just rinse it off. Now I'm going to start adding my olive oil and my dressing into the baby arugula. I think olive oil is better to use when you're working with arugula, just because arugula already has its own flavor, so you don't really need a lot when you're working with arugula. That's why I choose that instead of romaine lettuce. And I can even smell like the flavor from the arugula already, so that's good. Add the rest of that in there. And then I'm going to add in my raspberry vinaigrette dressing. Just a few drizzles. And then I'm going to stir it in. Now, you can add more vegetables to this. I'm actually going to add just a little bit of my green bell pepper, but not a lot, just to give it some more flavor. Okay, so I'm going to scoop the rest of my fresh avocado to my arugula mix, which has olive oil and raspberry walnut vinaigrette in it. So once I add my avocado, I'm going to just stir that in there so it can mix with the baby arugula and my olive oil and raspberry vinaigrette. Okay, so once I stir that in, I'm going to finish cutting the rest of my bell pepper into the salad. The board. Okay. I'm cleaning my board off just so I don't have any of the avocado taste in my bell pepper. Okay. And if you want, you can add some of the bell pepper seeds in there just for a little crunch in your salad. salad, so I'm gonna put it in the fridge so it can cool off while I'm waiting for my mashed potatoes to get softened. And we're gonna check on my meatloaf, see if it's done. Okay. Oh my god, these look beautiful. So I'm just gonna put them on the counter so they can cool for a bit because they are mighty hot. I'm gonna turn off my stove and we're going to put the sauce on them just as soon as they cool. So, okay. So while I'm waiting for my meatloaf logs to cool, I have butter in the microwave that I'm gonna put when my mashed potatoes soften. But right now I'm gonna start I'm starting to do my toppings for my mashed potatoes. So I'm just cutting off the tips of these green onions just because they're a little bit broken, and I want my green onions to look nice and pretty on the plate. So I'm gonna go wash my green onions off, and then I'm gonna start cutting those. Hot water, like I said, kills all the germs, all the dirt off. It kills all the germs, all the dirt off. Okay, so now that those are rinsed off, I'm going to take just a few and I'm going to put them all together. Simply like that. Get my knife and just cut them. The thing I like about green onions is that they're already round, so you don't have to really do much. All you have to do is run a knife through it. And I also like green onions because they give your plate color, and they also have the flavor of regular onions without making you cry when you have to cut them. Okay. So my green onions are cut. And now I'm gonna just put them in the bowl with my leftover bell pepper that I'm just gonna sprinkle on top. Okay, so I'm just putting the green onions in with the bell peppers, and I'm just mixing in just a little bit. And then I have my sour cream, which is already made and ready to go. And now I'm gonna start grating my cheddar cheese. I like grating my own cheese better than getting the ones from the store, just because they're, first off, you're grating it so you know it's gonna be nice and fresh. Not that the ones are not fresh at the store, but I just prefer grating it myself. Okay, so I just took my potatoes out the pot, and now what I'm gonna do is add in my black pepper, my sea salt, my garlic butter, and my evaporated milk into the bowl. And before I use my hand mixer, I'm going to use the whisk just to lightly stir in with just the milk right now. Add a little bit more evaporated milk. Okay. So the evaporated milk makes the mashed potatoes nice and creamy. Okay. So I'm gonna add the rest of that in there. A pinch of my sea salt, some black pepper, and a spoonful of my garlic butter. And now I'm going to use my hand mixer to blend it all together now. as you do the hand mixer, you can add another. Ready? Okay. So as I'm hand mixing it, I'm gonna add in just a little bit more evaporated milk so they're nice and creamy. A little bit more black pepper and salt. You don't want your hand mixer too high. You don't want it too low. So just put it right at about 3 or 4. Alright, look at those mashed potatoes. Nice and creamy. So I'm going to just mix it for a little bit more, and then I'm going to start plating my dish. Alright. So we're going to walk over to this side so I can start plating. Okay, so we're gonna come back to my my meatloaf logs, and we're gonna just start adding the sauce on it. And remember, the sauce is with ketchup and barbecue sauce. And all you're gonna do is just rub it right on top, just like you would with the regular meatloaf. Okay, so now that I have everything ready to go, I'm going to start plating. First, as for my base, I'm going to put my mashed potatoes with their toppings. I'm just going to stir my arugula salad just a little bit more, just because it was sitting in the refrigerator, so I just want it to get nice and loose. Okay? So, what I'm going to do is just use my ice cream scoop to make a nice little splat in the middle of the plate for my mashed potatoes. Going to add a little bit of cheese, a little bit of my green onions and bell pepper topping, and I'm going to use, okay, so I'm going to use a spoon to just put a little bit of sour cream, kind of like baked potato style. Okay, and now we're going to add on a few of the fritters on. Okay, and now we're going to put on the side our arugula salad. To the next bowl. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing for our second plate. Nice big splat, close to the middle. Baked potato style, put some cheese, our bell pepper and green onions topping, and sour cream. Add our meatloaf logs on. Okay, add our asparagus salad, and then we're gonna just put a nice little decoration. Okay, And here is your meatloaf logs, your baked potato, mashed potatoes, and your arugula salad with olive oil, avocado, bell pepper, and raspberry walnut vinaigrette. Here you go.